What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the daily puzzle solving series where we tackle a puzzle just above 2000 in rating for some explanatory and instructional value here on chess.com. And the principle that I'm going to focus on today is the idea that we have in our mind something called the reticular activation system. It's a system that focuses in on specific factors or specific features of a position depending on what we prime our brain to think about. So if we approach a puzzle and we say, there's definitely going to be a checkmate here, our brain is going to naturally gear itself to look for moves that support the fact that there's a checkmate. You don't believe what you see what you believe. So we're going to analyze this position first from a high level and take a look at what's possible and try to frame the puzzle in a way that allows us to then see the moves more naturally and try not to eliminate too many moves too quickly, try to keep certain ideas in the back of our minds, and really try to shape our focus. So let's look at the position and first look at the material. So we both have a knight and a bishop for two rooks and a queen. And we have 6 pawns on our side, and he's got 6 pawns on his side. So material is completely even. If we look at king safety, our king is very, very safe. I would give it an 8 out of 10 in safety. And his king is a little bit more out there and exposed. I would give it maybe like a 6 out of 10. And there's a potential of, our queen coming into an attack here. There's a potential of our bishop getting very close to the king. Our rook here is converging on areas like near the king, and our knight can give a check on a couple of different squares. This rook can even come in on b7. I'm not looking at whether these moves are plausible. I'm just looking at the possibilities right now. And he doesn't have anything that is resembling that on his side towards our king. So the other thing to pay attention to is, are there any loose pieces? Everything in his camp actually seemed pretty well defended. This bishop, this knight, the queen is pretty well defended as well. And the rooks are connected here on the back rank. And also on our side, mostly things are pretty well covered. Our queen is technically undefended here on a4, but there's nothing attacking it. And this knight is doing pretty well on f3. His pieces are a little bit more connected than ours, but in terms of overall piece activity, I wouldn't give him necessarily the advantage. Our queen is, as I pointed out earlier, having a pretty attacking position here on a4, and our rooks also are glancing into his position as well. So overall in this puzzle, in terms of analyzing the possibilities and framing our mind, like we talked about at the beginning of the video, I don't see us landing a checkmate on his king. There's actually no checks that we can give in our position other than ones that immediately cause us to lose our knight by e5 or knight to g5. And his king just has too many escape squares. So we're probably looking instead to win some material. And the question is, how do we go about winning that material? We have an attack that converges on e7 here by our rook and our bishop, our rook and a bishop, and his bishop here on e6 is in the way of that attack. So if there's some way that we can force this bishop to move out of the way, we could potentially win a knight on e7. Additionally, our queen can potentially come into b4 and help with this attack on e7. That's another possibility. And this queen potentially can be attacked by our rook if we were to go, let's say, knight to e5 check, f takes e5, and then rook takes e5. We would have an attack on the queen, and maybe his queen would be forced to move, and then we can go rook b to e1 to bring another rook into the attack along the d file. So that's another possibility. Also, if we take here and then he takes on e7, we would have an absolute pin down the e file. So these are some ideas that we could potentially work with in this position. So we're going to try to win a piece. I think there's a very good chance that the pieces that we could win are either the e7 knight or the e6 bishop somehow. So let's keep that as the frame of mind, but keep other things as possibilities, such as potentially winning the queen or threatening the queen, kicking it out of the way, using this knight check again, as I mentioned, to coerce him into a weaker position somehow. So let's now look for candidate moves. So the first candidate move I would consider is simply taking this bishop on e6. If we take on e6 and he takes back with the king, we have rook b e1 check, and let's say his king moves out of the way. Then we can take on e7, and we've won 2 pieces for a rook, which I think could be a winning advantage here, especially because he has this damaged pawn structure that we also have to consider. So we're up by 1 point of material, but effectively we could be up by 1.5 to 2 points of material, depending on how we view his weakened pawn structure. If he takes back with the queen, we also have this attack here on rook to e1, and we would be skewering his queen to the knight. His queen's got to move out of the way, let's say to b6 or d5. Then we can just take here with a check, and again, we will have won 2 pieces for a rook. That seems like a very strong move to consider right off the bat. The knight moves that we mentioned, we would just be losing the knight straight up to a queen takes, or if we go e5, the pawn takes the knight. So it doesn't look like that can win us anything. We also mentioned taking on e7 first with the bishop. The problem is that it doesn't allow us to recruit the rook into the attack with a tempo. Let's say he takes with the king. We have no way to pile up more attackers on this bishop, so we would have to maybe sacrifice the bishop to look for any sort of counter chances. He would take here with the king instead of with the queen, because if he took with the queen, we could pin his queen with rook b to e1. And now if we go rook b to e1 check, he can simply go back to f7, and he's got adequate defense on e7 because we've already taken with the bishop. Oh, wait, hold on. We've already taken the knight with the bishop. So there would be nothing left to win here because we've already exchanged off that material. So looking at that line again, bishop takes, king takes, rook takes, and king takes from e7 to e6. This check would be completely empty because both of the pieces here would be gone, and we would have actually lost an exchange over it. So it's really not worth it. So that's why we have to start by taking the bishop on e6 with the rook in order for this to be a valid tactic. So we've looked at a couple of the candidate moves, and we just do a quick scan. Rook to b7 just hangs the rook. Doubling up the rooks on the e-file first to avoid having a sack and exchange, I think would be too slow. He can simply consolidate his forces with a move like rook a to e8. So with all that said, I'm ready to go ahead and commit to this move. Rook takes rook takes the bishop. So he does take with the queen, and in order to get back our material that we sacrificed and a little bit more, we have to act quickly and move the rook over to the e-file. And he sacrifices his queen, surprisingly, but we would just take back, and that's the end of that puzzle. Okay, so I hope you guys have enjoyed the video, and we will be back tomorrow with another video for another live puzzle solving series. And if you liked it, go ahead and reach out to me on Gmail, and I'll send you a free chess book and follow up with some ideas about how we can potentially work together, such as with chess lessons, or if you would like me to teach a group class in your area. I can also travel. So all these things are possible. Just hit me up. Otherwise, I'll see you guys tomorrow.